Good evening, Dr. Schultz and fellow classmates. I'm going to discuss Dr. J. Gresham Machen, who was an instructor, professor, and theologian at Princeton Theological Seminary from 1906 to 1929, and how he became a key figure in the fundamentalist modernist controversy in the early 20th century. And this controversy is referred to in an editorial that Dr. Machen wrote in 1935. He called it "The Changing Scene and the Unchanged World." Machen returned from the First World War, where he served in France in 1917, and had become intimately aware of the war's horrors and importantly solidified his theological views of liberal nations, social improvements, and goodwill, which appeared to be very naive. The war proved that accomplishments of technology, science, business, and education could not cure the disease of sin. The ecclesiastical trial of Dr. Machen, which took place in the mid-30s, was initiated by the 148th Assembly of the Presbyterian Church. The Assembly ordered disciplinary action against Dr. Machen and associates on charges they refused to resign from the board due to Machen's claims of liberalism infecting the church. A distinguished New Testament scholar for over 20 years, Machen defended the historical reliability of the Bible and such works as The Origin of Paul's Religion and The Virgin Birth of Christ. He emerged as the chief spokesman for Presbyterian conservatives by issuing a devastating critique of Protestant modernism in numerous books. When the Presbyterian Church rejected his arguments during the mid-1920s, Machen took the lead in founding the Westminster Seminary in Philadelphia, where he taught the New Testament. He continued his opposition to liberalism in his denomination's foreign mission agencies. This led to the creation of a new organization and the subsequent accusations and trial in 1935 and 36. Machen created the independent board for the Presbyterian Foreign Missions. During the same time that this was going on, Europe was in turmoil. Germany and Italy, led by dictators Hitler and Mussolini, were becoming political bullies. As they built their military up, other countries responded with outcries of diplomatic pressure and sanctions. Religious and ethnic intoleration and violence was occurring daily in Germany, Russia, and all over the world. No religious denominations were safe anywhere in Europe or Asia, and Machen saw this. He knew this was going to be happening and feared for America's political and religious sanctity before and during World War II. And as we know, a lot of faiths, including the Jewish faith, suffered greatly. Returning to the trial, the Presbyterian Constitutional Covenant Union was organized by Machen and his associates in June of 1935 as a means of prospering for the eventual separation from the Presbyterian Church. The modernist opponents appear to be trying to label any change as being an apostate and therefore should be treated as such, to be tried, convicted, and sentenced. Historical setting of the trial: the General Assembly produced a mandate calling for all members for the independent board to cease their support of it or face discipline. At the end of the year, Machen was charged on 9 counts of disobedience, and in 1936 his trial culminated in his excommunication from the Presbyterian Church. Machen and others established what was become the Orthodox Presbyterian Church. They felt it was the only way to maintain a doctrinally true Presbyterian Church. Until he was suspended from the church, his great distress was the growing lawlessness within the church and in his denomination specifically. He saw modernism as a growing deviation from historic Christianity in all essential points, making it a different religion altogether. His response, entitled Modernism and the Board of Foreign Missions, charged that modernism had worked its way into the very heart of the church's missionary agencies. His leadership role was confused as reporters at Machen's trial concluded that Machen was on trial for refusing to disband his mission board, even though it was not his to disband. There were 15 others with him who were committed to the cause and were disciplined for their involvement. They all worked as fellow adherents to the higher cause of Jesus Christ, not to the thoughts or ideas of Machen himself. In conclusion, this article and other references show how throughout the trial the distinction between Machen's position and that of his opponents were hardly recognized. With the presupposition of these two positions being diametrically opposed, the differences should have been obvious. Meacham's pretrial pronouncements declaring the special commission would finally find him guilty, simply a recognition of the intolerance of those who sat in judgment. This intolerance in a violent fashion would present itself all over the world in the next few years against all faiths. We should be so fortunate in America to be able to do it peacefully and be able to disagree and agree when to disagree. This concludes my presentation, and God bless.